All right, episode 2 of the XK120 restoration. On this episode, we're going to be getting the engine off the hoist and putting it onto the stand. A few things we got to do, obviously. Take the starter off, then we're going to take the transmission off, then the exhaust manifold, the intake manifold, and hopefully we'll get the head off. There's a few challenges that we have to overcome with getting the head off, but I think we'll figure it out. And hopefully by the end of this episode, we'll have it up on the stand. Alright, so we've extracted the original starter. Here are the teeth that engage the flywheel. Look to be in pretty good shape. I'll take a closer look at that. Hope is to reuse this, maybe clean it, slight rebuild on it. I'd prefer to use the original starter. I like that starter sound for an old Jag. Alright, so the transmission is off. Wasn't that hard to get off. Just a couple things here. Keeping the bolts in order, so I'm going to put them in the exact same way they came out. Some of these are definitely original B's bolts. I think these two are actually some aftermarket bolts. Probably will get these replated if they don't clean up well, so we'll see how that all looks. Taking a look at the clutch pressure plate. Yeah, it's not in that bad a shape. I do plan to replace the clutch in its entirety with a 9.5-inch E-type clutch instead of the 10-inch clutch for the that came standard with the 120. Taking a look inside the transmission bell housing, looking at the clutch release bearing. Really it doesn't look like it's in that bad a shape. There's some grooving on the graphite section. We're going to go ahead and replace this anyway. I didn't really have too much issues with this clutch, but still, doing a full rebuild, you might as well go all the way so you can see how the clutch linkage here operates, the release bearing. So overall not in too bad a shape, but still think it's worth looking at upgrading it and replacing it with an E-type clutch. Alright, so I made a pretty interesting observation as I've been taking off this pressure plate. So these flywheels are balanced, and the way that they indicated the balancing was by putting a B on the pressure plate, and it's supposed to sync up with another B marking on the flywheel. And if you notice, you don't see it here, but if you come 180 degrees in the other direction, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it or not, but there's a B on the flywheel. So this pressure plate has been installed 180 degrees on the wrong side. Not really sure what kind of implication that has on the driving. You know, these little things can make a big difference. I didn't notice any significant imbalance while driving this car, but hey, we'll see. Maybe it'll make a big difference. Ha! Alright, flywheel is finally off. A lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I had to get a second hammer. You know, just lots of penetrant oil. Keep tapping it, rotate it, tap it. You don't want to do too much tapping on one side. It's good to get two hammers to level out your impacts. But just be patient with it. It takes a long time to get this thing off, so we'll move on to putting it on the stand now. Engine is on the stand. So just be aware we're using grade 8 hardware here to make this connection from the stand to the block. And you just want to fan these out as large as you can. Definitely want to have one here. This is a good point. And then, you know, maybe either this bottom one or this one here will be good on this side. Just fan it out as evenly as possible. And this is good because we'll be able to rotate it. We'll drain the oil, we'll get the head off, disassemble the block. And it's a much easier working height, so glad to have it on the stand. Alright, so we just drained the oil, so now we're going to try to get the head off. Just a couple things to note here. These oil lines for circulating oil up into the camshafts. Gotta make sure you take these off, disconnect that obviously. A couple extra bolts up here at the front, do not forget these. They connect the block here to the front of the head. So make sure you take that off. A couple more bolts on this side, so obviously you gotta take those off. There's a pattern for taking these off. I'll show you that here in my workshop manual. I'll start from the middle and work the way out, typical for anything aluminum. Yep, so we'll go ahead and try to get the head off. Alright, so we're starting to lift up to get the head off of the block. Slowly lift it up. Alright, so one thing that's important is you got to make sure that this timing chain adjuster is loose and that these are tucked in. Alright, come up with it. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Too easy. I think it's coming up straight. Yep, we're good, we're good. Okay. All right, just keep coming up with it, and I'll catch it so it doesn't swing back. Hold on, hold on. Okay, keep coming. Yeah, you're hearing the gasket. That's the gasket. Just keep going. Hold on, hold on. Keep going with it. All right, keep up. Just keep going. There we go. All right, we're off. Clear. Nice. All right, we'll take a look in there and see what we're dealing with. Perfect. So that does it for this episode. We got the engine on the stand. We got the head off, which was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I think on the next episode, we'll continue disassembling the engine. We'll take the water pump off, then the distributor off. Then we'll look at getting the oil sump off and get our first look at the oil pump, and the crankshaft, and see what kind of work needs to happen there.